Hello, my name is Joseph, and this talk is about re-evaluating VR user awareness needs during bystander interactions. So I'll start just by motivating what are bystander awareness systems. These are systems within VR headsets to automatically increase a VR user's awareness of co-located non-VR persons, and to some extent facilitate an interaction with them. This isn't a new idea. My colleague Mark McGill presented arguably the first bystander awareness system at CHI 2015. On screen there, the awareness system is that photoreal avatar being augmented into the virtual environment of the VR user. And much work has been done since Mark's paper and demonstrated a range of individual awareness system designs to successfully inform a VR user of bystander co-presence. However, there are limitations with this prior work. Chief among them is that they have focused on evaluating whether an individual designed awareness system can achieve some level of desired increased awareness, and what impact, if any, this has on sense of presence. As a consequence of this, although we know many ways of designing effective systems which increase awareness, we have no real understanding of which a VR user would use, when, and why. So we know how to build them, but we don't actually know how people are going to use them. So what does this paper do? It's a holistic evaluation of bystander awareness across VR user bystander interaction scenarios, where prior work will look at only a single interaction context, say a bystander entering the room. We look at many: the bystander entering the room, entering the VR user's play area, verbally interacting with the VR user, and many others. And where previous works evaluate whether the system works or not, we look at more how these systems will be used. In doing this, we demonstrate the shortcomings of existing evaluation methods, and we highlight how VR users expect awareness to be provided across a range of interactions. I only concentrate on the first of these due to time constraints. Please see the paper for a lot more information on the second. In terms of the experimental design, we designed 7 awareness systems which ranged in the extent to which they inform and facilitate bystander co-presence. We then evaluated these in a study consisting of 2 parts. The first part was based on traditional methodologies used in prior work. This evaluated their usability. We then used our novel method to evaluate their usage in an assessing awareness needs evaluation. In terms of the 7 awareness systems, 5 were visual, 2 were oral. The important thing to note is that they vary in the extent of information relayed. So a text notification and pass-through view are very different in terms of what the VR user is being told and relayed about the real world around them. And for a full breakdown on their design, please see the paper itself. So for that first part, that baseline usability evaluation, this was based and modeled after the typical methods used in prior work, where we had a game-like task and introduced participants to each awareness system in turn, and then evaluated them. So the game was you threw cubes at targets to destroy them, and participants were exposed to varying times to the awareness system during this. And then after being exposed, we evaluated the usability of the awareness system and the sense of presence of it. And then after evaluating all of the awareness systems in turn, we got participants to rank their preference of the experienced awareness systems, and then describe how they were ranking it, right? Were they ranking it to maintain their highest level of immersion? Were they ranking it in terms of the informativeness of the awareness system, etc.? Then after a quick break, participants then did the assessing awareness needs evaluation part of the study. This was our novel evaluation method. It was a think aloud exercise to assess how, when, and why participants would use an awareness system to increase their awareness during a range of potential interactions. So these interactions were based on known interactions to occur from prior work. Again, I point to the paper for a full breakdown on this. The important thing to note is that every scenario started with a person entering the room, and it was described in a number of discrete steps to the participant. And for every step of every scenario, we captured awareness preferences, right? Based on the experienced awareness systems from the first part, so those 7 awareness systems we designed, or the options for no awareness or to take off the headset. And we got participants to think aloud while they were doing this. In terms of the results, 16 participants did this study. Important to note that very high levels of prior experience to VR, so minimizing potential novelty effects there. The analysis, to be very brief, the baseline usability portion used very standard statistics and pairwise comparisons, as is done in prior works. In terms of this assessing awareness needs novel method that we used, we did a quantitative summary of changing awareness for every step of every interaction, and we used that to reinforce the thematic analysis of think aloud comments. I'm being very brief there because I don't have a lot of time, and I just really want to concentrate on highlighting the result which demonstrates the need for new evaluation methods. And I think one of the best ways to demonstrate that is to talk about text notifications. So let's think about the performance of text notifications in the two parts of our study. So in that first part, that assessment of usability, we found that text notifications were the second most frustrating, the second most disruptive, the least natural, the tied least informative, were not said to improve communication at all, and ranked second lowest in preference ranking. Photoreal avatars and pass-through views were considered significantly better alternatives. Therefore, if the user's choice of awareness preference is based on usability, we would expect text notifications to be minimally chosen throughout that second part, the assessing awareness needs evaluation. Instead, this wasn't found to occur at all. Instead, what happened was that text notifications were the second most frequently selected visual awareness system. Why? The information relayed best fit awareness needs relative to the ongoing interaction. So you saw a lot of people just wanting, say, a text notification when the person comes into the room. They didn't want to immediately jump to pass-through. They thought that was overkill, that was too much awareness. And this really highlights the influence of interaction content and context on participants' awareness preference during an interaction. We saw other instances of this in the study. So we saw a significant increase in visual awareness when, say, the bystander enters a VR user's play area, motivated by increased safety concerns. We also saw a switch in awareness priority. So by default, people mostly wanted to increase visual awareness, except during verbal interactions when they switched and they wanted this very high levels of oral awareness. So the bottom line is that if you only do that initial usability evaluation, that baseline usability, you might get misleading and inaccurate recommendations, right? If we just stopped there when we were doing our evaluation, we would get the impression that text notifications are really bad, and people wouldn't want to use them to increase their awareness. That wasn't found to be the case. Why? Because once you do that holistic evaluation, it becomes a lot more clear how people want to use them relative to other methods. And although we can probably increase the usability of the text notification, we still found that even with our terribly designed ones, people really wanted to use it a lot. So we do propose a solution to this in the paper. I've hinted at it throughout this talk, and that's this need to consider critical moments during interaction scenarios. So we found three in the paper, right? We found when a person enters the room, when a bystander enters the play area of a VR user, and during a verbal interaction, all elicited a significant change in awareness needs and awareness attitudes from a VR user. So we would suggest then, when you are evaluating whether or not your designed awareness system works, that you also consider how it might be used in these three critical moments. In terms of some final remarks, so in this paper, we demonstrate the shortcomings of existing evaluations of bystander awareness systems, right? We propose an alternative evaluation method, which is detailed in full in the paper, and I point you towards that to see it. But in short, we aim to provide a more holistic and ecologically valid method. We also capture many expectations for how VR users' awareness needs and expectations are, and how these awareness needs should be managed across a range of interaction scenarios. I haven't spoken about in this talk. Please see the paper for full details on that. If you have any questions, my contact information is on the slide.